Deadly Tarantula Girl coming to you from inside the city, tonight with a special friend who is an amazing woman. She is actually the owner and operator of a company called Safari Sasa. They specialize in African safaris, so we came to talk to her tonight to learn a little bit more about Africa. Introduce yourself, Deb, and tell us a little bit about you.
Well, thank you. My name's Deb Geisler, and yes, I do run a safari company in Tanzania. I am, of course, from the U.S. I was born in Philadelphia and moved every year for most of my life, and of course, most recently, I moved to Tanzania.
Incredible. So tell me, Deb, what role do you play at Safari Sasa?
Well, I'm the managing person. My husband is the driver and the safari guide and the one that is really the expert on the wildlife and does all the fun stuff that makes everybody love him. My job is on the computer. I'm the first person to meet people, find out what they'd like to do, what they'd like to see. I put together the safari for them and try to get it with enough activity. Do they want to go biking? Do they want to go hiking? Do they just want to be in the car? What animals do they want to see? How many days do they want to be out? How fancy of lodges or tents do they want to be in? So I put all that together and then work with people so we really can put together their dream safari.
Amazing. So what types of options do people have if they go on a safari with you, and how long are the trips usually?
Well, that's a good question. We do custom safaris, so everything is private for the people that want to be together in the car, and then they can choose what they want to do and how long they want to be out. Some people do a day trip. I have a lot of day trips that I do where we go to Lake Minyara National Park and can go biking or driving around the lake. Or go run with the Bushmen, or drop down in Ngoro Crater. All of that can be done in a day. If you really want to see a lot of animals and get into the Serengeti, you need at least 4 days, and I would say even a week, and longer than that if you want to see the wildebeest migration.
That sounds incredible. So what would you say is the most frightening experience that you've had with an animal in the wild?
Well, when I first started, probably everything could be a little bit frightening. Probably the most frightening, the first time we were camping, because we camped in a little pup tent, and we were camping in Arusha National Park, and I'm waking up in the morning and I'm sure that I hear a lion walking around the tent. Ooh. And so I kind of wake up my husband and I'm whispering to him, like the animal can't hear me. So I'm whispering to him, I think there's a lion going around our tent. And he kind of rolls over and he says, it sounds like a leopard. And he wasn't worried. And then some colobus monkeys, a big troop of colobus monkeys came and chased it off, and we were fine.
That's incredible.
But so there's always something that can get you afraid, but not necessarily that there's anything to be afraid of. I haven't known of the cats to come into the tent.
That's really neat. What would you say is the most incredible experience that you've had with an animal?
Incredible, many things. Like one time we were out on safari in Tarangire National Park, which has the largest elephant population in the world. And there was a big group of elephants coming our way. And so Abi, that's my husband's name, Abi kind of backed up, and he knows, he's been doing this for 15 years. He knows where they're going, when they're going, the families, the behaviors. He backed up, and the elephants kept coming so that they came around us. So I had that experience when I'm standing up in the truck because we had the roof open, and so you're like eye level with 50 elephants that are just walking around you.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I loved it. Another one, we were at the breeding center. The reticular giraffes were going extinct about 20 years ago, and so they do have a couple in captivity that they've been using for breeding, and then putting the offspring back in the wild.
Right.
And so you can go there to the ones that they're not really wild. They're being used for breeding. but you can interact with them and you can feed them. And,
Oh, wow.
And so I've had my face out there, and the giraffe licked my face, which you don't see in the wild.
I can imagine not. You must have looked like very tasty greenery.
Definitely.
All right. What would you consider the most dangerous animal that you've ever interacted with?
You know, there's always sort of a contest among the guides talking about which one is the most dangerous of the big five.
Uh-huh.
And I would say it really has to do with behavior, and it has to do more with our behavior, what makes the animal dangerous.
Right.
Because some people will argue a lion, well, I just told you about a lion, you know, or a leopard walking around our tent, and we weren't in danger at all. You have to know certain things, like you don't jump out of the car.
Right.
Like we've had some guests jump out of the car so they could have their picture in front of a pride of lions.
Oh, seems like a bad idea.
Snatch him right back in the car. So that was something dangerous. Or hippos. Hippos are extremely dangerous,
yes.
and people don't think about that. So that you want to make sure that you don't get the hippos easily get sunburnt. And so they stay in the water all day, and then at night they come out from the river to get their food. And they aren't actually carnivorous. So they've got these big giant teeth, but it's just for grinding grass. And if you go down to the river when they're out of the river and you get between them and the river, they're panicked that they're not going to get back into the river and they're going to burn up. So they'll attack. So they're very dangerous. Many people say the Cape buffalo is the most dangerous, but I've walked around herds of them, and they were, you know, grazing, and I was walking, and I'm not yelling and running, and and it was fine. Another time we were leaving early in the morning, and so we told all the guests that they need to be in the truck 6 o'clock, because if everyone wants to catch the sun rising over the acacia trees. Or wants to catch the lions coming back doing their final hunt and then maybe catching some prey. But they don't always want to get up early. So we're like, get up, get in the car by 6 on the road. And one guy wasn't coming. So Avi went back to his tent to see what was the problem. There's an elephant right in front of his tent eating from the tree over the tent. So the poor guy is in the tent, and he's looking out from his tent, and all he can see is the elephant from the knee down.
Oh, wow.
He's just a big, giant leg there. And he looks over at Avi, and kind of like me with my leopard story, he looks over at Avi and he goes, So we had to wait for the elephant to get done eating, and that was not the day we caught the sun going over the acacias.
You don't ask an elephant to hurry.
No. And so again, that could have been dangerous. I mean, if we would have gotten into a struggle with it, but it was perfectly harmless.
Interesting. What would you say is the most memorable experience? And I know that's probably like asking you to, I don't know, pull your favorite strand of hair from your head.
That's a good example.
Yes. Name a few, if you can, of your most memorable experiences with the animals.
Memorable experience. Oh my. You know, it's interesting for me because I'm actually more of a people person, having spent my life in the U.S. with a career working with people. Probably some of my more memorable experiences have been running with the Bushmen while they're hunting.
Wow.
And watching them hunt and catch a dik-dik.
Mankind is an animal as well?
Well, there you go. Or dancing with the Maasai, and that's a lot of fun. Or with the Maasai women and you know, helping them mud one of their houses. Or, you know, I enjoy the people a lot as well. Memorable animals, I think every time you go out you see something, and usually there's some interaction like we had with the elephants, or you see like baby cubs, you know, little lion cubs, because most of the animals I've noticed, they kind of work together. So there'll be a couple giraffes together and everybody's giraffe children. So there's like a nursery, and the lion cubs will do the same thing. You'll see like 8 cubs with 2 moms, and there's probably, you know, they're babysitting some
Right,
of them while
uh-huh.
somebody's hunting, and you just see all of these little animals just
Communities.
playing. And
That's neat.
yeah, one time when we were walking, and again, Arusha National Park is a place where it's easier to walk because they don't have the cats. And we came across a big group of giraffes, and so we were doing yoga with the giraffes. I
Oh,
was doing
wow.
poses, pretending I was a giraffe, you know, and they just watched. You know.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of fun things to do.
That's incredible. Did you see a dik-dik?
Yeah.
So I have to say, I guess I was so busy visualizing everything you were saying, I missed that somehow. So, you know, one of my favorite animals is the dik-dik. And I don't know for sure, but I hope that this is a little dik-dik antler.
It looks like it.
Not
could
one
be.
that was killed for its antler, but a little piece of it that was preserved. Tell me about the dik-diks, which is a tiny antelope for those of you who don't know.
Tiny, tiny,
Yes.
tiny. Often people don't see them because they're so tiny. Just you imagine those horns. I mean, it's like this big, and you'll see one or usually two of them kind of standing very shyly together under a bush, and they'll kind of quivering when people go by. They're just very shy, and they have these big Bambi eyes, and they're just really precious.
Wow, I want one. I know they're incredibly frail, and I love them though. I'll love them from afar.
They are beautiful, and of course, oftentimes for people that come and want to see the hunt and the kill, which many of our guests do, the dik-diks are usually a part of that.
Circle of life, I guess. Let's see. Are you aware that Africa has some of the most dangerous snakes in the world? And if so, which of those have you interacted with?
You know, I am aware. We don't see as many snakes as people think we do. Oftentimes people are afraid they're going to see a snake,
Right.
and I'm like, we're sitting with lions.
Yeah.
The snake is not going to eat you. But I have seen on hiking, I've seen on one particular hike, as I stepped out of the safari vehicle, slithering right along the tire was a puff adder.
Oh.
That had I not looked before I stepped, I would have been in trouble because they're really quite poisonous.
Oh, yes.
But they're kind of short and kind of fat and kind of slow, and they're not going to bother you. I mean, had I stepped on it, yes.
Right, of course.
But I didn't step on it. And then later that same day, we saw what we thought was probably about a 26-foot python. And again, I was walking up this trail, and I heard something in the bush, and there was just coils and coils. And at first I thought that it was some sort of larger animal, like a deer or something, or you know, an antelope or something. It was sort of shining kind of golden in the sun that was going through the leaves. But then when I got a closer look, what I realized that it had just eaten. So it was really fat. And it wasn't going to hurt me one bit,
Right,
because
of
it
course.
wasn't hungry, and it wasn't even moving.
Yes, food coma.
Yeah, so exactly, yeah. So I just kept on walking, and that was fine as well. And we do have the black mambo, which is an aggressive snake, and I have not seen one, but I've heard stories of them sometimes, you know, being in the villages or being in the areas of the lodges, and they do have people go out and make sure there's not going to be one in your tent, because they will get up and be pretty aggressive.
And I know in your company you always have people who are trained and experienced to protect the travelers.
Yes.
And so I'm sure that it's much different going on a safari than venturing out alone when you don't know what you're in for.
Yeah, and every night as we sit around the dinner, we talk about what did you see today, what do you hope to see tomorrow, what kinds of things would you like to do, so we can adjust our plans with what the guest wants. And sometimes you'll be sitting and they'll say, oh, after dinner I want to go walk by the river. And that's when you tell them, no, the hippos are out. This is not when we go walk by the river. So we keep them safe by keeping them informed about the animal behavior.
Amazing.
And then also Avi's quite adept at, if we are at a picnic spot and someone wanders off and scares up a lion, a few times I've seen him come forward and just make himself big, and the lion backs down.
Wow.
So that the guest comes back to the group. Because the lions, they pretty much, they don't get in your tent, they don't get in your car. The cheetahs are pretty curious. They like to crawl up on the top of the car and look down into the open roof. But I've never seen one come in. They're just curious.
Intelligent animals are inquisitive.
Exactly. And I had heard that they wouldn't eat anything over 70 pounds, so I was feeling pretty relaxed. But
Don't lose any weight.
well, then they told me it was 70 kilos.
Oh, shoot. Forget it.
Yeah.
Eat as much as you can. Okay, last question. If you could teach our audience one incredible thing about Africa that might defy the stereotype, what might that be?
I think when you first land, you will see you are greeted by all these loving people that I've never seen such smiles. Just the people of Tanzania. Tanzania is the country where we were.
Mm-hmm.
Tanzanian people are so friendly, and I hear that all the time when people leave. They just never imagined. They will do anything for you. Anything for you when you're on safari, whatever kind of little difficulties you get into. They're always smiling, they're always accommodating, they will find the food that you're looking for, or the t-shirt that you have to have, or the animal that you have to have. And,
Wow.
if someone, like, one girl was wanting to see a rhino, and Avi, of course, could see it because he can read the tail of the planes in the air.
Wow.
And she, said, "I can't believe you turned that pile of rocks into a rhino." He will pursue making that person happy, and that's pretty much true of the Tanzanian people.
Wow.
The women, we stopped one place I was looking at this woman's basket, and she had this beautiful granddaughter, and she let me take some pictures of the granddaughter, and the granddaughter wouldn't look at me, so she put some rocks into a paper cup and made it into a rattle, so to get the little girl's attention. But pretty soon then a couple other women came, and they were moving to the rhythm of those rocks, and then we were all dancing.
Wow.
And it was just by the side of the road, and all in our fabrics, and I didn't know these women. They were Naramba tribe, and it just happened. People just embrace you and take care of you, and it's just a wonderful place.
It sounds like a very loving, peaceful, and judgment-free culture, and I can't even imagine that.
It really is. And Tanzania, it's also, we call it the Geneva or the Switzerland of East Africa, because of all the countries around, when they've had some difficulties, like with Idi Amin or the genocide in Rwanda, or some of the things that have happened historically, everybody comes to Tanzania. We have our own little UN building there, where they air out and hold the war trials and bring peace back to the situation. It's a very peaceful country.
That's incredible. Well, we're going to make sure and post all of your information, so curious onlookers can look more and maybe someday travel with you. And with your permission, I would love to share some of your photographs at the end of the video. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I'm just visualizing the whole thing, and what a rich, beautiful, magnificent place.
Well, thank you. I would love to have folks travel with us. Safari Sasa, Tanzania.
Awesome.
And Sasa is Kiswahili for now.
Now.
Travel now.
Safari now, everyone. Hope you guys like this one, and I'll see you again soon. That was so awesome.